It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Even with all the rain, it is the most wonderful time of the year. And joining us this morning is Reverend Ed Gresick from the First United Methodist Church in Titusville. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Great. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Good to see you. Well, this is the most wonderful time of the year.
With or without snow?
With or without snow, absolutely. Like most churches in the area, Thursday night, Christmas Eve, a lot of folks coming together for special services, and you guys are having one too.
This is my first Christmas at First Church in Titusville. And traditionally, we have a 7 o'clock worship service that is geared around families and children. We have the 11 o'clock service is that more traditional service. At each service, we'll be having candles, candlelight service. We're going to be singing as many carols as are in our hymn book. We're going to have the children's program at 7 o'clock. We have a guest soloist coming in who's going to sing Mary Did You Know? We have a puppet ministry at First Church, and at 7 o'clock service, they're going to take part in that. And it's just going to be a wonderful time to come and celebrate. I'm told that if you want a good seat, you need to be there early. So 7 o'clock is the first service. 11 o'clock is that service. And then at the midnight hour, tradition has it that we ring in Christmas. And the bells will be doing that. And I've never experienced that before, but I'm looking forward to it.
Well, Sunday, when I ran into you, we were talking, and it was brought up that there's so much going on that 7 o'clock service may run into the midnight one.
Yeah, that's right.
You got to get everything in.
That's right. And maybe at the 11 o'clock service, we'll just say, remember that 7 o'clock and move on. So, but the church has been so wonderful. They have decorated the sanctuary.
It's beautiful.
This year, I talked the trustees into buying a poinsettia tree, and when it arrived and the bare frame was up there, they weren't that impressed. But it holds 41 poinsettias, and it is a thing of beauty up at the church. And I encourage people to stop by and look at that. It is just a wonderful, wonderful addition to our sanctuary.
Now, you've only been with the church for a few months now, but when you first walked into the sanctuary after seeing it decorated, what were your thoughts?
Oh, I just couldn't believe it. It brought a tear to my eye. And what was even more special than that weekend I was at a retreat with our district superintendent, and so I couldn't help. But over 30 people showed up to help decorate the church, and that is just absolutely wonderful. We had over 20 people on Sunday night go Christmas caroling to the local homes and a few of our church members, and that was wonderful. It seems like the church is just looking for opportunities to reach out and do ministry to other people.
That's one of those things where Mark and I have talked a little bit about that. When you think of, or when you watch those old Christmas movies, you see people out caroling, and the community mindedness that's involved is high, and that's not really happening today. But Mark was fortunate enough. A couple weeks ago, some folks came by, and
I think it was last weekend. Now, I've lived in the house that I'm in since 2007. This is the first Christmas I've been there that I've had carolers.
Oh,
so
I would love to have carolers.
Yeah.
And Sunday night was a beautiful night. It was cold, crisp. Got you into the mood, and we have a church van that we filled up, and we had some young children and some young adults, and a good mixture of people. So that's one of the highlights, I think, of church at Christmas time is the extra things that the church does about. We've adopted a family and 5 children, and there's a caretaker. None of those children belong to her. They belong to family members. And they weren't going to have a very nice Christmas. So we just put the word out to our congregation, and all of a sudden the whole office is full with presents, and it's just overwhelming what they are able to do. We also sent out care packages to the military and to seniors in college as they suffer through finals. Try to get as much junk food in there as we could. I spent 4 Christmases away from home in the the military. And let me tell you, a box from hometown is just worth its weight in gold. And you'll soon have a lot more friends than you ever knew. But
so what's participation like when you ask folks to help? Mm-hmm. Is it? Do you see it slowly taking place, or is it a quick reaction?
Well, it all depends on what the request is. The church is pretty well open, to my understanding, of different things, and they've been very patient with me. I've had some health problems since I came here, and those are going to be resolved next week, hopefully. But they've been very patient with me. They filled in a couple Sundays. I had to be rushed to the hospital, and they just jumped right in and finished the service. I just can't say enough about the people at First Church. They're really looking for opportunities and to reach out to this community. Our church has been there since 1804. So we've been part of the community of Titusville and been doing the ministry of Jesus Christ in this place for a long time. And I believe it's going to be a long time yet. So Sunday we had a good attendance, and I'm really looking forward to saying at Christmas time that we need to set up chairs.
So discuss, and again, I think you started July? July
1st.
July 1st. So what has these last couple months meant to you and your family? Because you're away from the kids.
Mm-hmm. It's been great. My wife and I, we have a son and his family outside of Baltimore, and then we have another son and his wife in Wilmington, North Carolina. And so we're used to traveling, and since this was our 14th move in 38 years of marriage,
wow.
The kids are used to moving too. So they sort of move at the drop of a hat. But that's been okay, because some grandparents in the church have shared their grandchildren with me. Joy is part of an organization called MOPS, Mothers of Preschoolers. And so she gets to hold all the babies and all the little ones, and Dad has her grandmother Fix doing that, okay. But, yeah, we just have people willing to share their children with us, knowing that we don't have children nearby or grandchildren nearby either. So.
There's, listening to you, there's so many things that the congregation does, that you do, and the folks there do, to make Christmas a little bit easier, lighter, better for a lot of people. One of the messages I've heard this weekend, and the bumper music that we used coming into the segment here reminded me, is sometimes this is not the most wonderful time of the year for a lot of folks. Yeah. How do you reach out and minister to those folks now? I
have sent a letter to everyone in the congregation. They don't have to be members, but if they're part of our worshiping community, I've sent a letter to them saying that in the busyness of the season, sometimes we forget that this is going to be your first Christmas without your husband, your wife, a child, and that we're praying for them. When I do a Christmas service, it's mostly about hope. And some churches and some communities even do what they call a blue Christmas, where people have gathered who have lost loved ones. Having an empty seat at the table is tough this time of year. It really is. And so we try to reach out to those people to tell them they're not alone. At Thanksgiving, I had one family who didn't have any place to go, and a single lady to come over to the house for Thanksgiving dinner. And we sat around and played Uno afterwards, and just had an old-fashioned time to get together and to share with one another. At Christmas time, it's the same way. We've had people in the house, and we've had people come and share a meal with us, because this can be tough. This can be a very lonely time. I remember when I was in the Navy, I spent one Christmas out at sea, and that was pretty tough for a 19, 20-year-old kid to be away from home. But then I also spent a Christmas at Pearl Harbor, so Christmas in Hawaii wasn't that bad.
So. Do you think people lose sight on that meaning? And Mark, I think you told me maybe last year that your family would invite somebody over at Christmas who needed to.
We always tried to do that. It was different every year. And sometimes it was when I was active duty Navy. Sometimes it involved a sailor and a family. Other times it was maybe neighbors or a friend or somebody that we knew. Yeah, there was always something we tried to do. Oh, and something else you said that reminded me, I spent 15, 16 years in the Navy. I was very fortunate over those 15 or 16 years, somehow always managed to be in port at home at Christmas time. Not always for Thanksgiving or Easter, but at Christmas time, for whatever reason, I was blessed with being able to be home. I can well imagine, how that feels.
Yeah, we when I during the Vietnam era, I received a 37-pound care package from my mother.
Wow.
It was filled with nut rolls, and she popped popcorn, and that's how she packed them. And
oh, wow.
I should have told her to patent that, because that's what those peanuts, styrofoam peanuts.
That's a terrific
Well, it took
idea.
2 weeks for us to get that. So I don't know if I want to say this on TV, but we broke into the Air Force commissary and took about 4 gallons of milk, and we ate them like this, like a hoagie instead of a nut roll. And then we ate the 2-week-old popcorn. And I tell you, I still remember that taste. That was very good. That was a taste of home. Being I was single in all 4 years, and being like that is you really look forward to those times. So what a blessing that was, and it's helped me be more prepared for ministry. You mentioned about losing someone. We also have, my counseling goes up probably 20 times during the Christmas holidays. Everybody expects their family to be the perfect family, and whether or not, let's call the pastor. And I keep telling people I'm all out of pixie dust. I don't have any more of that, so I don't know what to do for you, but I mostly listen and try to do that. But it's a time of year when people have high expectations, and how sad it is when those expectations aren't met. Yeah. And so a lot of people get, and I keep telling them, a lot of people get together for an hour and they argue, and I'm saying you can't just be quiet for an hour, but apparently they can't. So, and so we, as the church, reach out to those kind of people, because our church is a family. When someone hurts in our congregation, we all hurt, and it's just wonderful how I see the church come together and surround the people who are hurting, and let them know that they are loved and cared for.
It's 8:33. We're here with the Reverend Ed Gresick from the First United Methodist Church in Titusville. This is the Morning Drill on Stream Television and the Allegheny News Talk Sports Network. It's easy, I think, this time of year to say this is what Christmas is, this is what Christmas means, this is what you should take away. And I think people sit there and go, yep, I agree. Then they get in the car and it's, the pressure's on because I got to do this, we got to do this. How do you get across to those folks, and that's almost everybody, that this stuff's not important? What's important is reaching over, to the person sitting next to you and saying, hey, why don't you come over and have dinner with us? Or why don't you be a part of our family for a little bit? Or here's a way for us to help you. How do you do that?
Well, I think you have to stress that this is an event in the life of the church celebrating the birth of Christ. But we ought to be celebrating that every Sunday. We need to be celebrating the fact that we have the only religion on the world where God became a man. In most religions, men become gods or women become gods, but we're the only ones that have a God who became a man, and we need to celebrate that more. Everybody likes babies and stuff, and unfortunately, the church has sanitized Christmas to the point where you look at a creche and you see a nice little stable built, and a three-sided building, but that wasn't the deal. The deal was a damp, dark, cold cave that smelled of animals and manure. And growing up on the farm, we still called the place where we put the feed the manger. That's the proper name for it, and that wasn't very clean at all. And you can imagine this young teenager, 14 years old, people say Mary was, laying on this stone floor giving birth. And when we put it in that context, that's pretty amazing that God chose this man and woman, both teenagers. God chose them to bring God into the world.
I keep an image of that. There's an image my mother gave me that kind of describes that, and I've always kept that around because it's really a grounding point. It really brings things home. This is what it was really about.
That's right. On our tree in the sanctuary, I've hung a cross in the back. You sort of have to look for it, but I want people to remember that that's the reason why Christ was born. Is to go to the cross, and people don't like to hear about that kind of stuff at Christmas time, but I think it sets the stage that we need to have an understanding that in our Christian walk that is filled with sin, we have somebody who took away that sin.
And it seems to be something that comes from within,
yes.
I would think.
Yeah.
Pastor Purvis mentioned the other day, and I'm sorry
that's okay.
I interrupted you.
That's okay.
He's fired after today, so don't worry about it.
Pastor Purvis mentioned that for him, Christmas had become not so much a celebration, but a state of mind.
Right.
And I think that kind of attitude shift is something that comes with time and from within.
Yeah. And again, I can speak just from the perspective of the United Methodist Church and First Church, but it seems to me that there's a lot of people who want and are looking for hope. They're looking for some kind of peace in their life. They're asking questions like, why am I here? What is my purpose? And at Christmas time, all those are answered. All those are answered. We're called to be shepherds, and that was the first ones who saw the Christ child. We're called to bring gifts, and that's the three magi came. And we are called to be, in the Methodist term, would be called itinerant. We are called to go. And so when the message of Christmas can leave the church and go out into the community, that's when it gets real exciting.
We were talking the other day, there's so much happening in the world. It's no wonder, people flock to the movies to see Star Wars and, just to escape
right.
the realities of what's going on in the news. Right. Do you take what's going on with the current events and work that into your services on Sunday, or is there enough going on just around here that you have enough material to work with?
We do both. We keep it local. We also do national, international news. We pray for our leaders. We need to lift those men and women up that are leading us. We pray for our military who may be in harm's way or wherever they're at. We also come to understand that in the United Methodist idea of God is not a vengeful God who causes things to happen. We have this thing called free will and choice and sin, and all that comes into it. But we have a God who laughs with us. We have a God who cries with us. We have a God who loved us so much he sent his son. We have that kind of God, and I hear that all the time as a pastor. Well, if God is a loving, kind, gracious, forgiving God, how could this happen? And I said, it's called life. Stuff happens. Now, our response to it is what we can control. Our response as a community of faith is to say we can do this, and so that's how we reach out and tell people about this hope we have, that this life, these wars, all the things that are happening does not have a final say. We believe that we need to live our lives in a way that we won't be ashamed to stand before God and to allow God to judge our lives. So with that in mind, we are just, my heart breaks when I see that. And being in the military, my heart breaks when we hear the commander-in-chief sending more and more troops into someplace. Apparently, war's not the answer, or else we wouldn't have had any more wars. So we pray for people to come to the table, and just like our U.S. Congress, just like our state representatives, come to the table and talk about it. And it seems to me that in a lot of situations now, it's either my way or no way, and we as the church needs to speak out and to say, well, we know the way.
Right. Real quick recap. the events taking place Thursday?
Thursday evening at 7 o'clock, we have a family-oriented style worship service. It'll be a candlelight service. We'll have the puppets do their ministry. We have the praise and worship band playing. We have children are doing their program, and also the children choir will be singing. At 11 o'clock, it's also a family-oriented, but hopefully the kids are asleep by then. So if people want to come out and join with us, it's also a candlelight service, and we will be ringing in Christmas. We have guest soloists and different music planned. So both of those services will be available to whoever. And growing up a Catholic, I remember that Christmas Eve was a meatless, no meat on Christmas Eve. But then after midnight mass, it's not Christmas Eve anymore, it's Christmas Day, and so I would have a nice big ham sandwich before I went to bed. So we got real technical with that when I was growing up, yeah. And but it helps me understand how Christmas is celebrated throughout our churches. That we have so many more things that unite us than divide us.
Reverend Ed Gresick joining us. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. God bless you.
God bless you. And we'll have a final look at news coming up next.
Okay.
So good to see you. Thanks for coming in this morning.
Divine.